When we talk about solving equations with variables at both sides, I want you to look at the steps here. For the most part, they should be very familiar to you. In fact, when you look at just these here, 3 through 5, what are we solving for first? What do we have to get rid of first? How do you get rid of it? We've talked about that a number of times. What happens though is we're just going to add a couple steps at the beginning. We're going to start by simplifying each side of the equation. Then we're going to collect our variable terms on one side of the equal sign. And I'll talk about what that means in a second. But then we just get back into our regular steps for solving equations. So again, we're not doing anything new here, we're just adding a couple steps. Let's look at this example. It says solve the equation. 6x plus 22 equals a negative 3x plus 31. If you look at our steps, remember our steps say to simplify each side of the equal sign. When we say each side, remember this equal side holds this side in balance with this side. So we have to simplify this side and simplify this side. Well, using what we know, we cannot add 6x's to 22 because they're not like terms. Same thing is true over here. We cannot add negative 3x to 31, because they're not like terms. So we've really already simplified. We don't have to do anything else. Our next step says collect the variable terms on one side of the equal sign. What does that mean? Well, what that means is we want to get rid of them on one of the sides. Okay? So for example, if we wanted to get rid of 6x's, we would subtract 6x. And remember, whatever we do to one side of the equal sign, we have to do the other. So if I subtract 6x, or think of it as a negative 6x, on that side we have to do the same over here. Watch what happens when we subtract or we combine a negative 6x here. 6x's minus 6x's cancels out. We have our plus 22, so it's a positive 22. Bring down your equal sign. Negative 3x's plus a negative 6x's is a negative 9x's, and plus 31. Once we do that one step, now this is just a simple two-step equation we know how to solve. That's why these right here look so familiar. What are we solving for first? Well, our x term. What do we have to get rid of first? Our 31. How do we get rid of it? Well, since it's plus 31, we minus 31. Or if it's a positive 31, we combine it with a negative 31. Whatever we do to one side, you do to the other. Now, looking at this, 22 minus 31, or 22 plus a negative 31, becomes a negative 9. That equals, bring down your negative 9x. And notice that these are opposites of each other, so they cancel. Last thing we have to do is repeat. So what are we solving for now? X. What do we have to get rid of? Negative 9. It's negative 9 times x, so how do we get rid of it? Well, we divide by a negative 9, and we've talked about why that's important in the past. Those cancel out. Negative 9 divided by negative 9 is 1, and we're left with just x. Or it's probably better to write as x equals 1. And if you were to plug in 1 in here, you'd see that this side does equal this side. Let me show you one more thing. Notice that we subtracted 6x here. What if we took the same problem, but this time got rid of the negative 3x first? Let me show you what happens. If I wanted to get rid of a negative 3x, I would add 3x to each side. Excuse me. 6x's plus 3x's is 9x's. Bring down your plus 22. Bring down your equal sign. Notice that these are opposites, so they cancel, and bring down your 31. Now what are we solving for? 9x, so we're going to get rid of the 22. Since it's plus 22 or positive 22, we minus 22, or a negative 22. Now you bring down your 9x. Double check to make sure those cancel. Bring down your equal sign. 31 minus 22, or 31 plus a negative 22, is 9. Go through our steps one more time. We're solving for x. We have to get rid of 9. Since it's 9 times x, we do the inverse. We divide by 9. 9 divided by 9 is 1x. 9 divided by 9 is 1. So either way you do it, doesn't matter which side of the equal sign you choose to get rid of the x's, you're going to come up with the same answer, as long as you're careful with your negatives. Let's look at another example. 64 minus 12w equals 6w. Okay, so again, let's get rid of the w's on one of the sides. I'm sorry, before we do that, we should simplify each side. There really isn't much to simplify on each side, but it's usually a good idea to go keep, change, and remind ourselves that that's not just minus 12 w's, it's a negative 12 w's. So if we chose to get rid of the negative 12 w's on this side, we would do a positive 12 W's. And whatever we do to one side of the equal sign, we do to the other. We bring down our 64. We notice that these cancel. We bring down our equal sign. 12 plus 6 is 18 W's. Now once we've done that, we have a nice simple equation here to solve. We're going to divide each side by 18. Okay, now here's why I want to show you this problem. We notice that 18 divided by 18 is W, or cancels out, so we're left with just W. And over here, if you were to type this into your calculator, you get 3.5555 and so on and so forth. I don't want this for an answer. Okay, I don't even want this. Okay, because we can't really do anything with 3.5 repeating. What I want us to focus on is leaving it as a fraction. Okay, if we have 64/18, just reduce it. We know that they're even, so we could divide the top and bottom by 2, and we could get W equals, I'll just switch the sides here, 64 divided by 2 is 32, 18 divided by 2 is 9. Is there anything that we can reduce it more by? No. The only thing besides 1 and 9 that goes into 9 is 3, and 3 doesn't go into 32. Leave your answer like this. In fact, you don't even need to change it to a mixed number, because again, if we change it to a mixed number, before we can do anything with it, we'd have to make it an improper fraction. Okay, so it's okay to leave your answers as improper fractions. In fact, that's the best way to leave them. And then real quick, I just want to show you guys, I'm going to rewrite this problem, 64 plus a negative 12W equals 6W. I just want to make you aware of what would happen if you chose to get rid of the 6W's on this side. You can definitely do that by thinking of it as negative 6W or minus 6W. You bring down your 64 plus negative 12 plus negative 6 is a negative 18 W's. Now over here, notice they cancel out. How many are you left with? 0. That sometimes confuses people when you subtract it off this side. That's why it's usually better to go this route. But if you do that, you'd have 0. Okay, so you could solve that. We're still going to solve for the negative 18W. We'll subtract 64 from each side of the equal sign. That cancels. You're left with a negative 18W equals a negative 64. Divide both sides by a negative 18. And in this case, notice negative 64 divided by negative 18. And 2 negatives we know is positive, so we're going to end up reducing it to a positive 32/9. Okay, so either way again works. Just be careful that when you do have only W's on the side and you subtract them, you get a 0.